Hey, a good night of Shabbos. We're going to have a little pre-Shabbos l'chaim, a little Yamazaki, limited edition, because Shabbos is a limited edition that Hashem gave us. You know, last night we had, what a remarkable event. We had Edith Eger, the ballerina of Auschwitz, who was survived by dancing for Mengele every day, a remarkable woman who changed her life and took the after the war, turned her tragedy and facing the darkest of evil into turning it into a positivity for humanity and into something moving forward. And the truth is that probably one of the most remarkable women I ever met in my life. And we were blessed. We had over 300 screens watching it. And if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go back to our Facebook page and watch it because we did save it there. But I wanted to connect it to the Torah portion. This week's Torah portion tomorrow in Shul, we're all going to stand up and we're going to hear the Aseret HaDibrot, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God. Do not have other gods. Honor your parents. Don't kill. Don't murder, etc., etc. But the name of the portion is Jethro. And the question is, if we're reading about Aseret HaDibrot and we're celebrating God giving the greatest gift to mankind, why is it called Jethro? Should it not have been called the Ten Commandments or Moses? But why Jethro? There's many answers, but I want to touch on two of them. First of all, L'chaim, and good Shabbos to everyone. The answer is like this. The first answer is Jethro is a role model of how you receive the Torah. You see, the Torah is the greatest gift that God gave the Jewish people. But in order to receive and understand and cherish and embrace the Torah, you need to have sacrifice. You need to be able to give something up. You need to change your life. You need to have a paradigm shift in who you are. Jethro was the priest of Midian. The Torah tells us he was Kohen Midian. And Jethro picked himself up and took the travel down to the Jewish people and converted to Judaism so he could be part, so he could receive, so he could embrace the Torah. Jethro didn't just sit on the beach and sip a pina colada and open up his Facebook Live and say, let me watch God give them the Torah, let me hear Moses speak. He made sacrifice. He made change. He shifted who he was. And he came down to the Jewish people to receive the Torah. And that's why the Torah portion is called Jethro, to tell us that you want to receive the Torah, you want to be able to learn from Jethro, how you change your life and how you are able to make that shift. That's the first thing. And I think it's important for us to know because we all cherish the Torah and we all want to cherish the Torah. The second thing is like this. One of our most famous lines we always say, with which Edith Eger said so often, is Boruch Hashem, thank God. When you ask someone, how are you doing, they say Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem doesn't just mean that it's good. Could be good, it could be bad, but to recognize the gratitude, to thank Hashem. Do you know who was the first person to say Baruch Hashem, thank God? It wasn't Moses, it wasn't Abraham, it wasn't Isaac, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Rivka. The first person to say Baruch Hashem, thank God, I see gratitude, was Jethro when he came to the Jewish people. And you know, sometimes it takes the perspective of an outsider to appreciate and be thankful for the blessings, for the things that we have in our life. The Jewish people were in the desert. What did they do? They complained. The whole day they complained. Not enough water. We want fish. We want duck. We want manna. The manna's stale. It's not fresh. It's boring. Where's our this? Where's our that? The whole day they complained. Here comes along Jethro from the outside. And what does he say? Baruch Hashem, look what I see. God took you out of Egypt. He made 10 miracles. He split the sea. He gave you the Torah. He gave you the manna. He gave you the water. The first person to say Baruch Hashem, coined the term that we use till today, was Jethro. And that's why he had the honor that this week's Torah portion was called for him. You see, because it's a message to us to always be grateful. That's what Edith Eger taught us yesterday. Remarkably, she spoke about how she always looks forward. She spoke about how happy she is. She spoke about how every day she gets up and she thanks God. She told us how in the concentration camps, in Auschwitz, she somehow found God. Go figure. And then, this was probably the most poignant part of the evening. I turned to Edith Eger and I said, Dr. Eger, you've seen the villain. You've seen the darkest of the darkest. Do you forgive Mengele and the Nazis and Hitler? And she looked at me and she says, me to forgive? That's God's job. I forgave for myself. I want to move forward, not for them, because I want to see forward. I don't want them to live within me. It was remarkable to see such a woman who went through such struggles, such suffering. She saw the darkest moments that humanity ever saw. And yet she's positive and optimistic and says, Baruch Hashem. Just like Jethro, who this week's Torah portion is named for him, says, Baruch Hashem, thank God. You all know, I'll tell you a story. You all know Hillel the sage, right? Hillel the sage was one of the greatest sages. He spoke about loving humanity, loving humankind, loving your fellow. And the story is that Hillel was a poor man, and every day he wanted to come to the shul, to the Beis Medrash, to the yeshiva to learn. But in order to get into the yeshiva to learn, you had to pay 1 ruble. Hillel was a poor man, but every day he paid the 1 ruble instead of having food on his table. But one day, Hillel couldn't come up with the 1 ruble. And the guy at the front didn't want to let Hillel in. The reason why he didn't want to let Hillel in was because they needed the money to keep the place going, to keep the fire going. And Hillel came pleading to go in. They didn't let him in. But Hillel wanted to learn so badly. And Hillel went up to the roof and leaned in on the skylight and listened to the Torah reading, to the Torah study. The next morning, there was a terrible snow. And the next morning, they came to shul and they saw that there was dark. The light from the skylight wasn't coming in, and they looked up and they found Hillel frozen, nearly frozen to death. And they came and they brought him down and they gave him hot soup and tea and revived him. And from then on, they made a deal. They promised that they would never refuse someone from going into the yeshiva to learn Torah. Hillel the sage taught us the sacrifice that it takes to receive the Torah. And he always praised Hashem. May we learn from Edith Eger, from Jethro, to find the gratitude, not to wait for a stranger to tell us how blessed we are. May we always say Baruch Hashem. May we always have reason to celebrate. And may we have a beautiful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. At 4:15 on Facebook Live, we're going to have a special event, a little event, where our little Shano is making noise in the background, is going to light her Shabbos candles for the first time. Shana, you want to come tell them? You see, the Lubavitcher Rebbe taught us that the world that we live in needs so much light. And we light candles on Friday before Shabbos. And usually, it's the mothers and the older people that light. But the Rebbe taught us that the moment the girl turns 3, she should begin lighting Shabbos candles to be able to bring and increase the light in the world. And that's our tradition. So what's going to happen today before Shabbos?
I light my own Shabbos candle.
You're going to light your own Shabbos candle?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do?
Like mommy.
You're going to be like mommy?
And
Are you going to make a bracha?
I just happy to.
Tati also? No. Well, join us at about 4:15 for the lighting of the candles. Shabbat Shalom.